Welcome back, everybody, to the Too High McFly movie podcast. My name is Kevin Lyons.
I am Jose Ramos.
And I'm Minnie.
Avengers Endgame opened up this weekend, and we're going to talk about it. We've been waiting for this movie a long time, but have no fear, the first half of this podcast is going to be completely non-spoilers. We're just going to give you our general thoughts and just our overall feelings of the movie, and then after the intro music, we're going to get heavily into spoilers, so watch out for that one. So guys, 11 years ago, Robert Downey Jr., Jon Favreau, made one of the best superhero comic book movies ever made, Iron Man, launching us like the Big Bang, creating a cinematic universe with all these other characters and story arcs that just led up to this movie. And you know what? It was fucking thrilling. What about you guys?
Oh man, I loved it. I was a little tentative of whether this was gonna live up to it. Well, same thing with Infinity War.
Yeah.
You build for 11 years. The payoff is gonna be hard for it to live up to it, and this did, just like Infinity War did. Endgame lived up to it.
What about you, Minnie?
It was highly satisfying.
Yeah, it was.
Like I was like Jose, I was really concerned that it was gonna have a very polarizing ending. Like you either loved it or you hated it. Like there was no middle ground. Like, no, that was okay. Like it was gonna be just straight love or hate. But so far, my feelings and from everything else that I've read, a lot of people are satisfied with it.
Absolutely. And you could tell just in the theater, and that's something I want to talk about too, is how awesome it was viewing that with a packed theater filled with everybody who was just waiting to see this movie. The energy, there was an electricity in the air. People were on the edges of their seat cheering, just like all these great moments.
No, it was fantastic. I mean, I'm just going to cut you off quickly. Me and Dan, literally before the movie started, we had an over-under on how many times the audience was going to cheer.
Oh, yeah.
So while the movie's going on, like every time the audience broke into applause, we would just sit there and start counting up there. I think we stopped counting at about 13.
That's a lot.
Yeah, well, I feel we got lucky with our viewing, that first viewing on opening night, because I did see it. I did a second viewing yesterday, and
Yeah,
the
me
crowd
too.
just wasn't as good. Mm-hmm. You know the crowd is good when something happens that's exciting in it, and you let out a yeah, but
Yeah.
it's like you can't even hear your voice because everyone else is yang at the same time.
Yeah, it's not like a regular movie going experience. It's like the audience is involved. It feels like they were a part of this movie because some shit happened in Infinity War, and we wanted to see what was going to happen next. And something that I really liked about this movie is that it wasn't really anything like Infinity War. It was its own movie. Of course, it takes place afterwards, but it had its own tone. It had its own. It was its own movie. Because it's the farewell to the Infinity Saga, if you will. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're going to keep on making more movies with this continuity, but the main slate of Avengers characters, this was all coming to a close.
Basically, they finished an arc.
Yeah.
Now they're going to start a new arc. They finished their first arc that they set up for.
Yeah. Damn, man. What else do you guys want to talk about that's non-spoilery? I mean...
Ooh, that's
non-spoilery.
it's going to be kind of hard.
Yeah, but just there's so much in there, but it's hard to talk about it without getting into details. I guess in just very general evaluations on it, performances were great.
Oh, fantastic.
In it, the directing was amazing. Mm-hmm. The visuals, especially during the third act, were unbelievable.
The third act. Oh, my God. Mm-hmm. The third act.
And I feel this was a movie where throughout it from beginning to end, you experience many, many emotions.
Yes.
Very high highs and very low lows.
Absolutely, because this is a 3-hour movie, man.
They did a really good job of making weaker characters stronger. Like just like better. You're more involved in what they're doing.
Yeah, everything had such weight to it. And I will say the comedic level was on par with all the other Marvel movies, even though everybody was feeling kind of beat up going into this movie. And with how Infinity War ended so dark, you wouldn't expect this one to be just filled with comedy. And there's a lot of comedy in it.
Which is great because it didn't feel forced. It came from the right characters that have been doing it throughout the MCU, and those characters were providing that that lightness, that comedy to it. So it felt natural because they've been doing this the whole time.
Yeah.
But I think the best thing about this movie for me personally is, so we prepared going into it.
Yeah.
We had a plan in our head, like, all right, we're gonna go and we're gonna pound this much water, and then we're gonna go to the bathroom in the house, then we're gonna go to the bathroom at the restaurant, then we're gonna go to the bathroom in the theater beforehand. We gotta prepare because
We're not drinking during the movie.
exactly, we gotta be hydrated enough that we're good, but not too hydrated. So we go like, so we fully prepared because it was like 3 hours and 2 minutes. It felt like it was 2 hours max.
Okay, I was gonna start talking about that. You guys obviously didn't feel like the 3 hours felt like 3 hours, because that was a big concern for everybody. That it's going to be a 3 hour movie, even though we would all watch it if it was fucking 5 hours long.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, even got to a few points where certain things were happening that I was excited about, and I was like, damn, how much more do we have? Because I hope we have a lot more left. And I would look at my clock, I'm like, all right, we still have an hour and a half. Let's go.
I kept seeing you in the corner of my eye checking your watch, and I didn't want to ask you how much time was left because I didn't want you to notice that I was fucking crying throughout 90% of this movie. Dude, this movie had a lot of emotion, and you're right. I saw it a second time too, and the energy wasn't the same. It had nothing to do with it. The movie was still as amazing to me, but the energy wasn't the same as it is for that opening night, because all the diehard fans go opening night.
Yeah.
And I mean, even right now, I mean, all weekend it's sold out like everywhere. I was gonna go see a third viewing today, and I was looking at all the times, and every single one, there was like the most amount of movie times I've ever seen for a movie, and every single one of them was just like almost full, almost full, almost full, almost. I think most of them only had like 1 or 2 seats left.
Yeah, and I mean, some theaters have been doing 24 hours and still selling. So people are going to the show at 2 in the morning, 5 in the morning to catch like these.
Yeah, it's what currently we're taping this on Saturday night, and it's projected to have an $800 million worldwide opening.
No, it's not. They changed it last.
They
night.
changed
It's 950 to $1 billion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because right now, as of yesterday, globally, it was around 664 million already.
Yeah. So
It's making a little bit of money.
Yeah.
But
I think it'll make its money back.
Yeah, but it deserves that. I mean, like, all this buildup of all this time coming into this. I mean, you don't get movies like this all the time. It's a very rare occurrence, you know?
You never get movies like this.
Yeah.
And the thing, what you have to give it credit for is, so on its own, it's a good movie. But the fact that this movie is closing out 21 other movies in 11 years, the fact that it's doing that and it does it so well, like, that's commendable in any way, because it's so, like, it gave us everything we needed. It gave us nods from the MCU that we've had so far.
Yeah.
So while you're watching, you're remembering all these other movies, like, oh, I remember that line. Oh, I remember when that happened. Oh, wait, they're paying homage to this.
Yeah.
While still not forcing it to the point where it was affecting this movie as itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, this is a one in a kind experience, and the only other thing that could possibly relate to it would be Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because that's been going on for like 40 years, but at the same time, within that continuity of that story, we've only had 8 movies.
Yeah, Marvel's had way more movies.
Yeah,
than
Marvel's
that.
had 21, now 22 in 11 years.
With a bigger cast of leads.
Yeah.
You know?
So like the likelihood of anything like this happening ever again, like no.
That's why I was so glad we went opening night, because that's what made that opening night experience so amazing. I mean, everybody in that theater felt like they were your best friend. Even after the movie, when we're walking out, there's like that 4 or 5 minute grace period before you hit the lobby where you're still allowed to talk about spoilers. And we were talking at anybody is like your best friend. He's like, oh man, and just joking about everything that we saw in the movie. It was just such an awesome experience.
Agree, 100%.
Is there any other non-spoiler stuff you guys want to hit on?
I think we covered
Yeah,
it all.
I
Let's
mean,
get into some
Yeah,
spoilers.
let's get into some spoilers. Hey, Jarvis, play the music. Okay, everybody, we reached the point of the podcast where we're going to be talking about spoilers. You're getting your warning right now. From here on out, it's all spoilers for Avengers Endgame. If you have not seen the movie yet, put this on pause, go see the movie, and come back and join us. All right, guys, now it's time for the fun part. Every movie their opening scene sets the tone. And this movie opened up on Hawkeye on the farm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And just the feeling of it, because I noticed that it was handheld. It felt like it was handheld, and it had this solemn kind of feel to it, even though it was a family, they're having a little cookout in their backyard, and Hawkeye's teaching his daughter how to shoot. And then they all just started fading away. It was right on the snap. And it opened up with Hawkeye, one of my least favorite characters of the MCU. This movie made him... it almost avenged my feelings on him. I liked him in this movie because it's back to sad, like pissed off Hawkeye that we kind of got in like the first Avengers movie. And whenever they tried to make him more like likable and family friendly, it's just like, I don't really like this guy. And now he's kind of pissed off, and that's what kicks off the movie. How did you guys feel about that opening?
I mean, it was a great start. If the rest of Infinity War and MCU didn't happen, and you're just watching this scene in any movie, it was like, oh, this is a nice scene. He's spending time with his family. Mm-hmm. But the fact that we saw everything else, we saw Infinity War, we knew what was going to happen. Yeah. So you start with that, like, oh, when are they going to disappear? It's coming. When is it? And then right when that happens, like, you still feel for it, even though you knew it was coming. Like, damn, there goes his daughter. Yeah, there goes his kids.
It was a good way of setting up what the tone of this movie is going to be, and still reminding everyone, because there's still people who went to go see it or will go see it that haven't seen Infinity War.
And those people are called idiots.
Yeah, but it set it up in a way where or they remind you of exactly what happened at the end of Infinity War. But this time, instead of it being heroes, it's showing you that still everyday people disappeared too.
Yeah, and you kind of got the sense of panic in Hawkeye. It was the first time you felt like he didn't know what to do, and he's like running around the farm. Where the fuck is everybody?
Which was great because he was never a part of that battle, so he had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, that's true.
Which shows, or it gets everyone to connect with how everyone else in the world is feeling. Like, they weren't there with this battle. They don't know that some psychotic person just snapped his fingers and made half of the world disappear because that was his goal. Mm-hmm. You're sitting next to your buddy eating lunch one day, you look around, he's gone, you have no idea what the fuck is happening.
But you get a free lunch.
Yeah, you get a free lunch, he left it there. All right, so yeah, that's pretty much how the movie opened up. It really did set the tone. And then it goes over to what a lot of people have been wondering about, Tony Stark and Nebula floating through space. They gave us a little bit more information. The fuel cells were ruptured in the Battle of Infinity War, and they had to repair the ship. But I like how it opened up on them playing the football. You remember, like, the fold-up
paper football?
The paper football, and like it's weird. At first, I thought it felt like it was going to be weird opening up on them having fun on the ship, but then, like, it goes right into his monologue afterward. We've been floating for, like, 20-something days, and, like, you kind of get stir-crazy, and so he was just playing football with Nebula just to pass the time, and it was fun seeing how, like, evil she was playing a little innocent game like that and calculated, and you could just see Tony breaking the rules, and it's just like, oh, yep, that means you won. Don't catch it. Because she was catching him when she was kicking him, and it was kind of cool seeing that. She's like, yes, I had fun.
Which is good, and it's good because, as we found out through Nebula, she had that rough upbringing where she was always pitted in competition with her sister, trying to prove herself.
And always losing.
Everything was a competition, which shows why she was probably so vicious during this little game of paper football. So it was Tony helping her kind of get out of that, where it was just like, all right, you don't have to take it that serious. And then she won. Mm-hmm. And it's like she didn't know what to do. She's like, yes, I had fun.
Yeah.
He broke her.
Yeah. And then it also helped that they had a little montage afterwards, like right after that moment, showing them trying to repair the ship, showing them, they were he was eating the rest of the food that was on there, and he handed it to her, and she just slowly pushed it towards him. Like, that was a one of a cool part for Nebula, just showing that she cared about somebody. You know what I mean? She didn't need. I mean, does she eat? She's like fucking robot.
Yeah, she ate in Guardians of the Galaxy too.
Oh, that's right. She needed food.
The rotten fruit.
But she probably needs a lot less
Yeah.
than he does.
And then that was all while Tony was doing his little video recording on the helmet.
What I thought it was cool is visually what they did to Tony, where he looked malnutrition.
Yeah,
And
he
did
looked
a
really skinny.
good job.
malnourished.
Yeah, really good job of giving him that look there, and it looked real.
Yeah, it really did. And then he after he was done with his message to Pepper on the on his little Iron Man helmet that we saw in the trailer, Nebula, he just passes out. It almost looks like he was just about to die, and Nebula just puts him in the chair. And then that's when we got the reveal on how he gets saved. And who saves Tony Stark?
Captain Marvel.
Oh my god. It's so weird because we were waiting on Endgame to come out to us to see how Brie Larson really was as Captain Marvel working with other directors. And I will say I was not impressed.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't get. We'll get into it as we go along, but she didn't get a lot of screen time. But the little bit that she did, it was the same uncharismatic character you got from the Solo movie.
She's very just like mono and stiff, and like it seems like she's always posing, and she has no personality when she's being Captain Marvel. But anyway, she comes in, she saves Tony and Nebula. She carries their ship back to Earth, and we had a really cool moment where the first time that Cap and Tony see each other. And everybody was always wondering what that moment is going to be like, because after Civil War, they were not on good terms.
Yeah, they haven't talked since Civil War.
And this is how crazy Infinity War was. The first thing Tony said to Captain America was, "I lost the kid. The kid's gone." And it was like he forgot all about that other shit, and that's how serious the situation was. And they just carried him inside, with Pepper, and
that was him first seeing that Pepper was not part of it, because he asked for her right before she comes.
Oh, okay.
So that was him realizing she didn't get dusted.
Yeah, that was there's so much shit I even didn't even think about that. There was so much stuff in this movie, but yeah.
We also, before they go in, we get the moment between Rocket and Nebula, where he just sits next to her and just puts his paw on her hand.
Yeah.
Doesn't say anything, just...
All feuds have been put aside, except for when they go inside the war room and Tony's hooked up to the IV and he's on a wheelchair, and that's when I noticed how malnourished he looked, because in the ship he just looked like gaunt, just like pale, but it was this war room scene where I really noticed how gaunt and skinny he was sitting in that wheelchair. And then he fucking sees Rocket Raccoon, and I love it when people see Rocket for the first time in this world. They're like, holy shit, a talking raccoon. He looks at him and he says,
Build-A-Bear.
Up until a second ago, I thought you were a Build-A-Bear. That was so fucking funny.
What was great about this scene is that you see the effect. They didn't just gloss over the effect of him being up there for that long. He went delirious, basically.
Yeah.
You get that, and you see it here where he's not talking coherently.
Yeah.
He's trying to say so much. He's thinking about the past. He's losing his temper, but there's an incoherency to what he's saying.
What was it? It was 21 days since the snap.
So 21, 22, something like that.
Yeah.
And after he got some fluid in him, you did see that little bit of feud between him and Captain America. And what I really liked about it was it goes back to Ultron, when Tony said, I want to make a suit of armor around the world, and because you stopped me from doing that, Thanos was able to come down and snap everybody. And you said that if we weren't going to do this, we're going to lose, and we'd lose together. And you know what? We lost, and you weren't fucking there.
Because he didn't answer his message.
Yeah. Well, he didn't even have a time to call him, because right when he was about to call him, Thanos came down in Infinity War, I mean, well, the other guys. But, and then Tony gets all worked up, and he ends up passing out right on the floor. And then that's when Captain Marvel is like, all right, fuck this, I'm going to go. And they're like, where are you going? Like, I'm going to go kill Thanos. And that's what brings us to, like, it felt like they just jumped right into the mission to go stop Thanos.
Yeah, because Nebula's like, I know where he is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And-
what was it? He'll always talk about the garden. This one place, the garden.
yeah.
His
Retirement
like
plan.
Rhodey said, his retirement plan, which was cool because they were able to piece the information she gave them with the information that they already had, which is the fact that the energy made from the snap that they got on Earth the first time when he snapped everyone away.
Yeah.
They got a reading of that same energy on another planet.
Yeah,
So
and-
they pieced that with her information, like this is where he has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they all jump on the ship. Well, apparently they must have repaired it in that time because they needed that ship to go into outer space. But they all get on the ship. They're going to go fly over to Thanos. And another fun moment is when Rocket looks behind to the other characters like, all right, who's never been to space before? And half of them raised their hands. And that was just like a funny fucking moment.
Who raised their hands? It was Captain Scarlet.
Thor.
Not
no,
Scarlet.
it's Black Widow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thor was on there.
Yeah, Thor was on there. He's
Nebula.
obviously been to space. Nebula's been to space.
And Rocket. And Bruce Banner in the Hulkbuster.
I could have
the
swore there was
Hulkbuster.
one more that never went to space. Rhodey. No.
Yeah,
Rhodey.
yeah.
Rhodey.
But anyway, they get over to the planet, and Captain Marvel flies down to go do a surveillance and
The
she's-
recon.
The recon. She's like, "There's nobody. It's just Thanos. There's no satellites, no nothing."
It was just as a viewer experience at this moment, so they get there to the planet.
Yeah,
I'm like, we're just starting the movie. We're in
Yeah.
the first 15 minutes. I'm like, they probably go down there and Thanos is gonna whoop their ass.
Yeah.
because we're at the beginning of the movie, so this is
Yeah.
my mindset going into this scene as an audience member.
yeah. It was just like they're getting to this pretty quick,
Yeah.
and so they go down to the farm, and Thanos is picking fucking fruit in his fucking farm,
Yeah.
and he's limping up into his farmhouse, and we notice that he's damaged, like he has burns on the half of his face that the gauntlet was on, but it wasn't like that at the end of Infinity War, and you're just like, whoa, what the hell? And then they all come crashing into his farmhouse. They tie him up, and Thor comes in and chops off his fucking arm with a Stormbreaker. And then Rocket turns over the gauntlet, and he notices that all the stones are gone. And then that's when Thanos reveals that I destroyed them. That's what gave that signature that they were
Yeah,
able to
the
read.
second snap was
Yeah.
destroying the stones.
Destroying all the stones.
And that's what messed him up.
Yeah, yeah, and he's like, it nearly killed me. And then he looked at Nebula, and it's just like, I'm sorry for the way I treated you. And then Thor just cuts his fucking head off. That was so cool.
What are you doing?
Yeah,
I went for the head.
yeah, that was fucking rad. And it's just like that's when everybody just kind of started going, well, what the fuck is gonna happen now?
Yeah.
And then you just see Thor just walk off, and it kind of just fades to darkness, and then it gets to 5 years later. Everybody, you could hear a gasp in the audience because everybody was just thinking that this movie was just going to take place immediately after Infinity War, and it was just going to continue that. But I thought it was such a great choice going 5 years later because it really does separate itself from Infinity War.
Yeah.
We see this post-apocalyptic Earth where half of the population is just gone. You can see like the overgrown baseball field, like the stadium, and you got Captain America doing group therapy with other survivors because if you think about it, they can't undo what Thanos did. You know, they just have to live with the results of what happened. And I thought that was so cool because all these characters, they are now just separated and doing their own thing in this post-apocalypse. How'd you guys feel about that 5-year gap?
I thought it was awesome. It definitely brought the gravity of the situation of what he actually did.
Yeah.
Is like they basically gave up on trying to find everyone.
Because they lost. It really
Yeah.
solidified that they lost.
Yeah, because in their mind, stones are gone. Thanos is dead.
Yeah.
There's nothing more we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you felt that with all the characters. They all felt despair almost, you know?
And then they were all broken up to the point where there has not been a single threat on Earth that required the Avengers to be together for 5 years.
Well, that's also because the world was I mean,
Yeah,
they were saying Black Widow was saying that the remaining governments of the world, I mean, a lot of them crumbled. The rest of them are trying to piece together some type of census, and so I don't think it was a lot of time for
Yeah.
like big bad supervillains to do. Everybody was just dealing with this
but,
result.
But yeah, like bad guys, villains, ones that might have survived the snap, they weren't trying to do anything because they were just as devastated as everyone else. Like.
And then, oh yeah, what were you gonna say, Jose?
And like you said, everyone was separated. You can really see Black Widow is taking it hard. Like she put all the responsibility on herself to keep the Avengers going to a certain extent in case there was help. Like she wanted them to help with an earthquake.
Yeah.
And Okoye's like, it's an earthquake. You just let it do its
Yeah.
thing.
So it's an earthquake in the ocean, which Namor, they brought that reference in there. Submariner.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't the first Avenger. He was early on, and they're bringing him back since they got the Fantastic Four rights.
Okay. That would be cool. I have no idea who that character is.
He's Marvel's Aquaman.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Black Widow's trying to piece everything together. That's what we see. And then a little spark of hope comes trickling into the movie. We see Ant-Man's van, the brown van from Ant-Man and the Wasp, in a parking garage. Looked like some type of big storage facility with Hank Pym's name on it. And then a little rat. A little rat goes stumbling over the controls, and it activates the fucking quantum realm
The
machine.
recovery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was another thing everybody was talking about. How's Ant-Man going to come back? And it was all from a little fucking rat.
A rat saved the world.
Yeah. And Scott Lang comes bursting out of the quantum realm, and he doesn't understand what's going on. You see him kind of just walking around the city, and he sees that a lot of it's deserted, and there's like missing posters up everywhere.
Missing posters, trees and grass and
Everything's
roots is
overgrown. Yeah, it's all post-apocalyptic, and he goes looking. What was it?
The memorial.
The memorial. He stumbles on the memorial. It was almost like a 9/11 memorial, but on a bigger scale.
He's walking down the street. He finds out that it's 5 years later.
Yeah, and he's looking at the memorial, and he's desperately looking for his daughter's name, and that's when he stumbles onto his name, and he's like, "Oh shit!" And then he goes and he finds his daughter's house. He rings on the doorbell, and he sees his teenage daughter coming out, because in the last movie he was in, she was like 7 years old, and she comes walking out all grown up, and it was just such an emotional moment for Paul Rudd. I mean,
Yeah.
like his acting performance in that scene was fucking so powerful.
Because he even says this was only 5 hours for him.
Yeah.
So imagine 5 hours passing, and now, holy shit, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
We don't find that out until the next scene, because we go back to the war room with Black Widow, and she's there with Captain America, and he's trying to tell her to be positive and stuff like that, and that was I need to watch that again just to see word for word the whole meaning of that, but they get interrupted by Scott Lang showing up at the entrance of the facility.
When is this footage?
Yeah, yeah. It's like, this is now, and that's when the movie like starts to pick up, because he's just like talking about the quantum realm. He's like, I went in there, and somebody was supposed to take me out. He's talking about hope, and I come out, and everybody snapped, and she's like, wow, that must have been a hard 5 years for you. He's like, that's the thing. It was only 5 hours. And he starts talking about the possibility of time travel, and that's when you start to you can start to feel that little tingle go up your spine. I'm like, it's gonna start getting good. It's gonna go, and Paul Rudd was so funny with this, because he's so like hyper about everything's going on, and then he just sees the sandwich. Is that anybody's sandwich? And he just like goes and he like eats it, but he doesn't understand the science. He just knows. He goes, it can be possible in this quantum realm. We just need somebody who can figure this out. And then that's when they go to see Tony Stark.
Yep.
And this was a cool scene. I mean, Tony Stark and Pepper have retired at some nice house by a lake, almost reminiscent of Thanos retiring on the farm. Mm-hmm. Tony's retiring on this house in the middle of nowhere, and it's revealed that they have a daughter. her name was Morgan, right?
Yeah, yep.
Morgan Stark, and what a cute little kid. She's playing in a tent in the backyard, and she's got what looks to be Rescue's helmet on, and Tony's just like, hey, what are you doing with that? I was making that for mommy. It was an anniversary present for mommy.
Your mom never wears anything. I get her.
Yeah. That was cool, and that's when Cap and Black Widow and who else was it? Ant-Man.
It's those three.
Yeah, they go rolling up and they're asking for Tony's help. And he's just like, no. He's like, time travel, that's ridiculous. And I love it because Scott Lang is using Back to the Future as a reference. And Tony's like, are you basing all this playing off of Back to the Future? He's like, no. He's like, good, because that would have been bad.
And it is. And here you see how much Stark has changed since it happened. Now that he has his life all together, basically. He's with Pepper. He's got a girl. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot to lose now beyond himself.
Yes.
And you see the hesitation of him joining in because now he's like, I can risk what I already have in here. And you see that in there. And Black Widow sees it as fear.
Yeah.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, because when they're walking away, she says he's scared.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that. I might catch that on the 14th viewing of this movie that I'm probably going to do.
But he is, you could tell his situation with Cap is repaired to a certain point. He is happy to see them.
Yeah, because he said that.
Yeah, he's like, I'm glad to see you guys. You guys, if you're not going to talk about this issue, you're more than welcome to stay.
Yeah, for lunch. Yeah, for lunch. We're about to eat. So they leave there and they go looking for a bigger brain, which is the Hulk, Bruce Banner. And that was really fucking cool because it revealed that in this 5-year time span, Bruce Banner was able to collide every being with him and Hulk, and now it's just like a mixture of both of the two.
He found balance.
He found balance, and he's just talking like Bruce Banner, but he's as the Hulk, and that was it was really cool to see, and I'm so glad they did that because we got like zero Hulk in the last movie, and this one is like all Hulk, but it's like the mixture between them, and they're at a diner talking about it, and you see the Hulk's got fans, the kids are coming up to him, he's like taking pictures and talking about time travel, and that's what I love it because now it's a time travel movie, and I love time travel movies.
And it's cool because he has this high intelligence, so does Stark, but they have it in different fields, and that's what he says right there. He was like, "This isn't my area of expertise at all." He's still gonna help, but it's like, this is not what I do.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're onto new ground. And even Tony was talking about that in the previous scene, how all this stuff is just like, you don't even know the science behind it. And I do. And it is so complicated. There's no way to do it.
So complicated that it's still like, even though I know about it, it's still theoretical.
Yeah. That was so crazy about this movie. And then they start to go into the testing of this, which was such a fun thing. Is that what they did next? Yeah.
Well, first, before they go into that testing, is we see Stark.
Yeah, back at the farmhouse.
The night before, he starts getting the itch, and he was like, "Oh, let me just try this formula. It probably won't work, but Jay, just run this scan."
Yeah.
And then it scans, and it's like 99.7 something success.
Yeah.
And he's just like, holy shit.
But what was cool, what led him to do that and to change his mind about the home time travel thing, he was doing dishes, and then like he got water up on one of the shelves like right by the sink, and he goes to go clean it off, and then he sees the picture of him and Spider-Man, him and Peter Parker together. And like you could just feel that aww in the whole audience. And that's really what triggered him, is like, all right, I have to at least try this science. And we got a little bit of that classic Tony Stark in his lab creating something with the hologram table, and he's being Tony Stark again. Yeah. And that was really cool to see.
And it's good. It's like you can see it in his face when it first says success, and he's like, "Oh damn!" And you get that old Tony Stark.
Yeah.
But then immediately after, his little girl shows up, so you get his interaction with the little girl.
Yeah, with the swearing, he's like, shit.
Yeah.
Don't say that. What are you doing? Just working on some shit.
She extorts him for juice pops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then he puts her to bed. She gives her the "I love you 3,000."
Oh,
line.
that was so personal and just that was so great. I love that.
And then he goes to Pepper, the other part of his new life in there. And you can see now, all of a sudden, he doesn't have that same face he had when he first saw that it was success. Now it's a conflicted facial expression of
because the change with him is now going to Pepper. That was usually he would just like I figured it out and he would go off, but now like he's sitting there and he's telling us like I did it. Like,
well, yeah, because the thing is that Pepper was always the one who was trying to talk him out of doing something, and that's why he kind of has this hesitation. That's why that emotional change, because I have to tell Pepper about this. And usually we would expect Pepper just to be like warning Tony, you shouldn't do this. But at this point, she's just like, you know what? You should do it. That's basically what the whole point of her saying.
Yeah, is that you should do it because even if you don't, it's gonna eat away at you.
And this scene gave me one of my favorite lines in this movie, where he's like, "I can just put a pin on it and I can go to bed." And she looks at him and says, "But can you rest?"
Yeah, that was really cool, and it was just so like it took us by surprise, just like how simple that interaction went, but how meaningful it was. That was really cool because then again it starts to kick up another gear because the next scene is them testing the time travel theory in the Avengers headquarters, and this was like this was a really fun scene. They got Hulk behind a whole bunch of controls and the van with the little time with the quantum realm machine in the back of it, and they made a makeshift time travel suit. And they're trying to figure out time travel, and they're doing the test, and they're like, all right, we're gonna send you back, a week or something like that.
You'll walk an hour, but for us it'll be like 10 seconds, and we'll bring you back.
Yeah, we'll bring you back. And they did it, but instead of sending him through time, they sent time through him. So he started shifting between being really old, being like a teenager, being a really young baby, and then really young baby. All babies are young, fucking idiot. All right, and so they finally pull out of it, and just like it was such a funny scene because it's like. We don't know how this shit works, and it was such a disaster. But Hulk is just like, yeah, time travel, figured it out.
I think this is a win.
Well, no, because it is because in the form of science, you always have to take baby steps, and it was just him testing the procedure of time travel. It's like, hey, we got to figure it out a little bit.
Somebody peed in here.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was old me or baby me.
Or just Mimi. And then you see Cap just go outside and like he needed some fresh air. And then you just hear that roaring sports car in the distance closing in on the fucking facility. And you just know it's Tony. And he just pulls up in front of Cap. He's just like, you turned Scott into a baby, didn't you? He's like, yeah. He goes, if only somebody would have warned you about the dangers. Like, yep, you did. And that was oh man, that's when it started feeling like Avengers again. And you see
because
Tony go to the back of the car and he opens it up and he pulls the shield out and he just hands it back to him. And that was, oh man, like that brought such a smile on everybody's face. It was such a wonderful moment.
Which if you notice that shield must have always been in his car because it had all of his daughter's toys on it.
Yeah, no, he said it was in the garage. He goes, I had to take it out of the garage before she started sledding with it.
Oh yeah.
All right.
And which was good here in this scene also is because we get a clear idea of where Tony's mindset is. Yeah. So he basically says, okay, I figured it out. We could do it. It's possible. But he's like, the only way that I'm going to do this is if we bring back what we lost, but I keep what I gained.
Yeah, if at any point it feels like I'm going to lose that, I'm out.
Yeah,
and it was good that he set that forward and it made everything.
And not dying would be a plus.
And not dying would be a plus. And so now the plan's starting to come together, and so they need to recruit the Avengers. And so this is when Hulk and Rocket go to find Thor.
Yeah,
they
go
to
Asgard.
Yeah, New Asgard. It looked like it took.
It's in Norway.
Norway.
In Norway.
It was like a little fishing village. There were the remaining people.
Townstead.
I don't know.
It's in Norway, though.
It looks something like that. And it's like a little fishing village with the remainder of what's left of the Asgardians. And it's so funny seeing the Hulk on that shitty little truck in the bed of the truck, and it's just dragging as it's driving. And then we get to see Valkyrie because it drops him off in the center of the town. Valkyrie's there, and we have a nice little reunion between Hulk and Valkyrie. She throws a jab at him. It was kind of funny. And so we kind of find out that Hulk has been secluded himself in this village. She says he only comes out once a month and then she looks over to the side and there's a bunch of beer just stacked in the corner. That's his supplies. And so Hulk and Rocket go into Thor's house, and we hear Thor. Hey, are you guys here to fix the cable? And then you see Korg and Meek sitting down on the couch playing PlayStation.
They're playing Fortnite.
Yeah, and Thor comes walking in. You just kind of see the expression on Hulk and Rocket, and Thor's got his shirt off, and he is now fat.
Yep.
He became depressed. Not that that's laughable. I mean, it was just funny just because we're so used to seeing him bulked out that now seeing him with big love handles and a big belly and kind of flabby arms walk in, it was a little funny sight, but it gets serious right away as soon as Hulk mentions Thanos. You just see Thor just like grows cold, and you just see him just relive all this pain in his head, and he just grabs onto Hulk, and right in that moment tells you everything you needed to know on why he got out of shape and gave up. And I really liked that arc for Thor.
I liked Hulk's reaction in that, because this version of Hulk seems calmer.
Yeah.
His demeanor's a lot better. But as soon as Thor grabbed him, he was like, let go of me.
No, he said, please let go.
He's like, please let go of me. Where it's just like, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, even though I understand the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another part that was really cool was Hulk was just like, you know what? I've been there. I've given up. And you know who was there for me? You were. And that was a really cool, meaningful part of their relationship, because in the last podcast we were talking about Thor and Hulk building this great chemistry, and like those two are like the brothers in the MCU. I mean, Hulk and Thor.
Yeah.
Bruce is like partnered up with Tony. Like they're the science bros, and Hulk and Thor are the smash bros.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was nice to see that come full circle, and you see Hulk, helping Thor out, and that was really cool. But Thor's denying everything. He's still like, nope, I'm not gonna leave. I got everything I need here. And then Rocket's just like, we got beer on the ship. He's like, what kind of beer? And then they take off.
Rocket's always the practical one. He's like, enough with this emotion stuff. I got beer.
Yeah. That's what I love about Rocket, because he almost like comes at a situation with the simplicity of a child. Sometimes kids just have the most simple answer. They can just say things the most simplest. But Rocket does it with a foul language, and I just love it. Like, his plans are always right to the point. And so after that, I think we get to Hawkeye. Wasn't it? It was it was Black Widow getting Hawkeye. You can see he's gone rogue.
Ronin.
He's Ronin now.
You see Rhodey stays behind from the communication with Scarlet when she was communicating with everyone. Mm-hmm. He stays behind, and he says, we just found a bunch of cartel killed.
Federales.
Yeah, it was Barton. It was him. And you see the emotion in her face, because she used to be that person.
Yeah.
And it was Barton who pulled her out of there.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And then now he's in that situation where he's cold, merciless killer. Mm-hmm. And she is the one who feels responsible for bringing him back.
Mm-hmm. It was a good part of the movie just to bring in a little action, because that was something that this movie was missing compared to what Infinity War was. Infinity War was action scene, action scene, action scene, action scene. This movie was very just character driven, not a lot of action, but until we got to Hawkeye again, and you just see him as an assassin.
Yeah.
What was he? Hong Kong or China or something?
Japan, I think.
Yeah, and he's just taking out it looks like mob guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And what was great is he's taking them all out, and he's ruthless going after him, and he finally gets the boss one-on-one, and you find out why he's doing it, and the whole reason is half the people in the world disappeared. Why did you get to stay?
Oh yeah, that he
Yeah.
became like an anti-hero.
Yeah.
But I don't think he was working alone. I think he was like contracted as Ronin, right? He was just taking like hit contracts. I think
That's pretty much what
Yeah.
what Ronin is. He's got for hire mercenary.
And at the end of that, after he killed that dude, he just takes off his hood, and he could just sense Black Widow behind him. He's just like, "What are you doing here?" You know? And she's just like, that scene was cool because it was emotional, but it was fast. It got right to the point of what their dialogue needed to be. And she's just like, this is not going to bring him back, but we have a chance now. And he's just like, what? And he's like, sorry, I couldn't bring it to you sooner. Let's go.
Oh yeah, because he looks at her and you see the devastation in his face,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Don't do it.
Yeah,
don't give me hope."
Yeah, don't give me hope. And then she's just like, sorry, I wish I could have done it sooner, but let's go. We don't have a lot of time left.
Yeah.
And so now we're back at the Avengers facility.
Yep.
They have developed the quantum realm suits that we've seen in the trailers, and Scott Lang's got it on, and I love it because they don't have a lot of those Pym particles left because Hank Pym is gone and they can't make any more. And that's when we start to get some of the rules of the time travel. Like every time travel movie, you always have to have those rules set out, and this is when they start to do that. So Paul Rudd was saying we only have enough for a round trip for each of us to go back in time and to come back, and enough for just 2 tests. And right when he said that, he accidentally hit the button, he shrank, and then he came back down. 1 test. One test. That was fun. And he was kind of nervous about it because he didn't understand what he couldn't mess with. And that's when Hulk was just like, you can't go back to the past and change the future because that would be your future, and the present that we're in would be your past, and it wouldn't affect. That was when I started to get a little bit confused, but their solution to it was don't mess with any of the main events that happened. We just have to go back and take the stones and bring them to our time and bring everybody back.
Yeah, because basically what he was telling them is that no matter what, if you go to the past, you come in front, you're still on that same timeline.
Yeah.
It's just that event of going to the past is now part of your present. This is basically what he was explaining it, because you're continuing your timeline. You're not switching it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the reason why that didn't make sense to me was because you're looking at time just through yourself, where time doesn't react just to you. You know what I mean? It's react to itself. It's its own fucking thing. And that's where it got confusing. And we could talk about this for fucking 10 podcasts, but we got to keep this going. And so they decided to switch Scott out of the suit, and Hawkeye was going to do it.
Yeah.
And
Because Hawkeye didn't care, or he wasn't scared, and Scott was having second thoughts.
Yeah, and he was like, he didn't know what to do. And this is another fun part because they started talking about all the time travel movies that they mentioned, and then Paul Rudd's like, Die Hard. No, wait, no, that was that was cool. And then Hawkeye's just like, I'll do it. And so this was the only one test that they could do, and that's why they took Paul Rudd out, because we only got one left. So they sent Hawkeye back to right before the snap, right into his onto his farm. But here's another little Easter egg. The way that they showed the time travel, I don't know if you guys noticed this, was very Bill and Ted's. Do you guys remember Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
Going through the
it's going through those wormholes, and each one, they were all splitting off, going to different times, and it looked and felt just like Bill and Ted's. And you just see Hawkeye just go in, and he lands on his farm, and he's in his barn, and he's just like, oh shit. And he goes walking up to the house, and he sees his kid's baseball gloves there on the ground, and he's just happy, and he picks it up, and he hears his daughter's voice from inside the room inside the house, and he's just like, oh shit, and he can hear the beeper about to go off. He's gonna get sent back, and he starts calling out for him. You hear like, yeah, Dad? And then he just zaps back up to the present, and it's cool because he's still holding the baseball glove that he picked up. He goes, it works. And that's when we get them all getting suited up, and they're walking towards their new time machine that they invented. They invented a new type of quantum realm machine. It was a really big circle. It was like a circle stage, and they all walked up, and the ceiling was all like mirrors reflecting down. Before that, they did the montage of, all right, now that we know that it works, we have to figure out what times to go back to get all these stones, because every single one of us has encountered these stones one way or another. And that was a really cool way to go back into the other movies. And it was really smart too, because all the Infinity Stones ended up in all the previous movies almost.
Yeah.
And it made sense for them to go back into the movies, just like Back to the Future too. That was really cool. And so that was a really fun montage because you got to see them not just work with their brute strength in like game plan of like on the battlefield. They're actually talking about science and the best plan to go do that time travel. And then Black Widow's just like, if you guys think about it, if you guys choose the right year, there are 3 stones in New York.
Yeah, this is after they found out that Doctor Strange was based in New York.
Yeah. They found out he was based
After
in New York.
Thor went on his rambling story about the Dark World.
I love it because like the Thor is just become like an even bigger joke.
He's the dude.
He's the dude. I love it because Tony Stark calls him that, and it's just so funny just seeing Chris Hemsworth look out of shape, and speaking of that, you know, like in Shazam, they got rid of all the they got to do all the stereotypes got to be superheroes, and they got that out of the way. And I'm like, Thor just gave us our first fat superhero, and I love it because I feel like he's me now. He's drunk and out of shape, but he's still a superhero.
Passing out in the chair.
Yeah, he's just passed out. All right, Thor, didn't you have that? Didn't you know about the ether or the reality stone? And he's just sitting there in the corner with his hands down his pants and sunglasses on. He's like, is he asleep? And then he gets up and he starts rambling about Thor 2, and it's so funny because it was almost like the bad movies version of Thor 2, The Dark World, and he's just explains like, ooh, the dark elves scary. You know, it's just really funny.
And then he comes back down because he goes from that and he starts talking about his mom and Natalie Portman's character, and then he remembers, he's like, but she's dead and she dumped me. Yeah. And it's like, Hulk is like, cut it. Cut it
yeah. Oh, there was something I picked up on the second time too while he was doing that story. We got a shot of Paul Rudd watching him, and the expression on his face was so Paul Rudd. Is you could tell that he had no idea what was going on, but he's still trying to act interested out of like politeness, and that was so fucking funny. But anyway, they figured out the plan. They knew all the times that they had to go back to, and they kind of split up into teams. And let's get into that part.
Yeah, what was it? They went to 3 different time periods.
Yeah, 3 teams to 3 periods.
Yep.
Technically,
and locations.
There was 4 teams. There was Captain America, Tony Stark, and Ant-Man and Hulk, and they went into the first Avengers movie, the final battle scene, and they were looking for the Time Stone, the Tesseract, and the Scepter, and that's the first group that we're going to talk about. That was cool because that was a really big Back to the Future 2 moment for us, where you go back into one of the other movies, and they go in at the end of the Avengers battle. And Tony and Ant-Man are on the Avengers Tower watching that final pose at the end of Avengers when Loki's just like, if it's not too late, I think I'll have that drink now.
Oh, no. Before that, we saw Raging Hulk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because
going through, beating everything up, and then it was like, oh, fine.
Yeah, because it opened up on that. It opened up on that reveal of them in the Avengers, that circle shot, and then it goes down to the alley, and you see them time travel in there, and then you. And then you see
Hulk just raging down.
The Hulk from the first Avengers movie, 2012 Hulk, come barging in, and he smashes one of the bad guys, the Chitauri. He smashes him with a car, and then jumps on the car, and there's and he jumps off. And then they're like, "All right, Hulk, Bruce, you have to look like that Hulk." He's like, "Oh man!" So he rips off his shirt, and he just walks over to the street. He's like, "What
did he say?" He's like, "I find this whole thing gratuitous."
Yeah, because he's like matured. He's not angry anymore. And it was just so funny to see him pretend to be Hulk, and he just like lightly hits a car. He gets damaged, but he's like, and throwing stuff. And so the Hulk goes to Bleecker Street
to get the Time Stone,
and the ancient one is still there. Because this is before Doctor Strange movie, and it was cool because she knew exactly what was going on. She's like, don't go in through that door. The floors just got waxed. He's like, I'm looking for Doctor Strange. She's like, you're 5 years too early. He's doing surgery down the street, and it's like, oh shit, she knows what's going on. And he's trying to get the Time Stone from her, and that's when she kind of hits him, and he
does the out of body experience.
Yeah, but the out of body is Bruce.
Yeah,
and so he's having that whole conversation with the Ancient One, talking about why he needs the Time Stone, and she's just like, you can't take it, because if you take it with you, my time line is going to be in disarray and yours is going to be fixed. Like ours is going to go to shit.
Yeah.
And he's just like, well, not if when we're done with the stones in our future, we bring them back to the moment that they disappeared here. And she's like, all right, but I don't trust you anyway, because you're probably not going to survive this. And he's like, yeah, but Doctor Strange gave the time stone to Thanos, and she's like, he did that willingly.
Yeah, because she tells him, she was like, we're supposed to protect this at all costs.
Yeah.
And he's like, then why did Doctor Strange give it away?
Yeah. Why did he give it to Thanos? She's like, he gave it to him willingly? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, maybe it was a mistake. She's like, no, maybe I made a mistake. And she's talking about her encounter with Hulk. And so, because she knew what Doctor Strange was, she said he was supposed to be like the chosen one of the
he was supposed to be the
magicians.
best of us.
And if he gave it to Thanos, that means he has a plan, and you guys need this. And so she just gave it to him, and knowing that he was going to bring it back. And that was the end of the Hulk in 2012.
But before we move on for that, what I thought was cool, right when he gets there at the beginning, we see that she was part of the fight in New York.
Oh, yeah.
She was actually fighting, even though you never see that in the Avengers movie. So in the background, she was doing her thing.
Yeah, because she was inside the house, and you could see that she could see through the walls, and she was taking down Chitauri left and right that were flying like over the house. So she was basically protecting the house, not so much the city. So yeah, that brings the end to the Hulk in 2012, Bruce Banner. And so now let's go over to Tony and Ant-Man
Staring at America's ass.
yeah, they're in the Stark Tower, and they're watching the Avengers from 2012 wrap up their fight with Loki, and they walk off with the Tesseract, and Tony's just like, "Hey Cap, that suit didn't do too much for your ass," and Ant-Man was just like, "I don't know, I would say that's America's ass, sir." That was just so funny and so Paul Rudd.
Oh,
That
but
was
it got
great.
better.
Yeah, it did get better. So up there in the top floor is the scepter and the Tesseract. In 2012, Tony packs up the Tesseract in the suitcase, and then they pack up the scepter in another like guitar-looking suitcase, and they go off. And so Tony and Ant-Man go looking after the scepter. I mean the Tesseract. What are you gonna say?
Well, yeah. It gets packed up, but this is where the Hydra agents, which at that time are S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, come and they grab the scepter.
The scepter, yeah,
and they take it.
Yeah, and they got split off. So Tony and Ant-Man go after the Tesseract, and they're in the lobby of Avengers Tower, and that's when Tony and Thor from 2012 encounter what's his name, Robert Redford, because he was in what was it? Winter Soldier.
But before that, important thing.
Yeah, Hulk.
They were going in the elevator, and Hulk had to take the stairs.
Yeah, Hulk had-
And he was not happy about that.
And they kept on cutting back to him clunking his way down. I hate stairs, And this plays a butterfly effect type of thing, because the present Tony is in the lobby dressed up as like a riot gear officer. You know what I mean? Like he's protecting the lobby, and he sees the Avengers get stopped by Robert Redford, and that's when Tony's just like, all right, Ant-Man, do your thing. And they have to create a distraction to get the Tesseract, and so they fuck with Tony's arc reactor, and he kind of faints, and that's when Ant-Man kind of kicks the Tesseract case, and Tony grabs the case, and he starts walking off, and that's when Hulk gets to the bottom of the stairs, and he kicks open the door, sending the case flying open, and the Tesseract slides and just lands right in front of Loki, who's not being guarded because everybody's worrying about 2012 Tony Stark, and he just picks up the Tesseract, and he just out of there, and you could just feel the audience just go no, because their plan got interrupted. We're on a good pace for something, and it got interrupted, and Tony's just like, shit.
But right before that, as Tony Stark is still having his little like seizure on the ground, you got Thor there. Was like, I have an idea. I have no idea if it's gonna work, but I have an idea, and just electrocutes him.
Yeah,
I had no idea that was gonna work.
Yeah, he puts Mjolnir over his chest, and he just taps it with his finger, and the little lightning's like Tony wakes up. And so Tony fucked up, and he let the Tesseract go to Loki, and now we go to Captain America, who's trying to get the scepter, and they're recreating that moment from the Winter Soldier, where it's the glass elevator going down and they're all trying to take out Cap and Winter Soldier, but now he's in there and he knows that all those agents are Hydra agents. And so when Captain America goes into that elevator, because they just saw him, they're like, that's weird. We just saw you on the top floor, but okay. And you think that they're going to recreate that fight. And you think that, oh God, here we're gonna go, a lot of action, and then Captain America just like leans over to the lead agent and he goes, I just got a call from the head office of Shield, and they think somebody's gonna steal the scepter. I'll take it from here on out, and all the guards just start to put their guns on their hips like they're gonna take him out, and he goes, don't worry, and he leans over into the guy's ear.
Don't worry, you can trust me.
Yeah. Hail Hydra. And then they all smile and they give it to him and he just walks out of there. And that was so fucking cool to see.
Yeah. That was cool. I mean, that was great for two reasons. One is because it played off of it and it kind of messed with our expectations.
Yeah.
And two, because it was a nod to the controversial comic book storyline where he ended up as part of Hydra.
Yeah, that was so fucking smart. Like you would never see that coming, and it was just so cool to see. And Cap goes walking out of the elevator, and he's walking down the hallway, and then he's on the radio comms with Tony, and Tony's just like, "We got a problem," or something like that, and he's like, "Don't worry, I got the scepter." And then he just goes, "Oh shit!" And he sees
2012 Cap.
2012 Cap standing right in front of him, and 2012 Cap is just like, I got eyes on Loki, because Loki first transformed into Captain America, earlier in that scene, mocking Captain America. So Cap knows that Loki has that type of power, and so they started fighting each other, and that was just like a cool Cap on Cap fight. Why the fuck not?
Cap on Cap fight. All of a sudden, 2012 Cap gets the upper hand and is like, I can do this all day.
Yeah.
I know you can.
Yeah, that was really fun.
What I thought it was great is because the differences between the 2012 Cap and the current Cap is you remember the old Cap, but he's just like language. And here this guy, Cap in this one is saying son of a bitch and oh shit.
Yeah, he doesn't care anymore. This is the last thing. And so he basically fights, he takes over his younger self. He was able to beat him up. And then while that Captain America is passed out, face down, he just looks at him and goes, that is America's ass. And he walks away. That was so fun. And so, that's when we get to the alleyway with Cap, and he's got the scepter, and Tony and Ant-Man are in a damaged car, and they're just looking at him, and he's just like, I fucked up. And he goes, I lost the Tesseract. Tony got away with the Tesseract. And they're just like, fuck, what are we going to do? And we don't have any more Pym particles. We can't time travel back anymore except for the future where we came from. And that's when Tony's just like, hey, I know where there's... I remember a point in time where there's a Tesseract and Pym particles in the same exact location. And so that's when they had to improvise. And that's what I like about a lot of the Avengers movies. Sometimes the plan doesn't go to plan and you have to improvise. And that was like so convenient, but it was cool. They got to go to the 1970s to the training facility where Captain America is his home, where he was created, basically. Yep. And Tony runs into his dad, Howard Stark, in 1970 in the secret base, and he's getting the Tesseract out from like a chamber that was, just a storage room, like in Indiana Jones, storage rooms, and it was like that. And so it's just him and his dad, and this is where I can kind of forgive the likelihood of characters meeting up in the situation. There's nobody else in that entire warehouse area. It was just Howard Stark and Tony, and it seemed like unlikely that would happen, but I forgave it because what the scene was.
Yeah, it was a good moment.
Yeah, because Howard didn't know that was his son, and they're just kind of bonding, and they're walking back up with the Tesseract, and he's talking about, my wife is pregnant, and that obviously is talking about Tony, and he's just like, he's talking to his dad. He's having that moment of reconcile with his dad, but his dad didn't know it. It was one of those other type of arcs to wrap up with Tony Stark. I thought it was really meaningful.
And it was so great, especially after the events of Civil War.
Yeah,
and seeing how that affected him to get that moment again.
Yeah, that was really cool and meaningful. And then Captain America is trying to get the Pym particle from a young Michael Douglas who's there, and that was cool seeing him in there de-aged again, and even younger. And he's calling Hank Pym's office, and he's like, Dr. Pym, there's a package for you here. It's like, well, bring it down. Isn't that what your job's for? It's like, it's glowing. We're all scared. You need to come and get this immediately. It's like, oh shit. And he goes running out of there. And then you see Cap sneak in and you see all the vials of the Pym particles. And it was kind of weird because the vials that they're in are in their exact same form of vial that it was in the future. It's like, he'd never advanced the canister
If
at
it
all.
ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right.
Which was a little Easter egg in that scene. As the camera is scanning to show him, you have the old school
the
Ant-Man helmet
Yeah.
on the table.
It was like the prototype Ant-Man helmet. That was cool to see too. That was awesome. And then Cap is trying to sneak out of there, and he sees officers who are looking for him because some secretary thought he looked shady, and he ducks into an office, and it's dark, and you see that it's Peggy's Agent Carter's office. And he sees his picture there, and then there's a window into another room, and he sees her in there looking over files, and he just has this moment of like, this is the first time he's seen her in more than 11 years. Was it 11? No, how many years?
Well, in total, it was like 80.
Yeah, something like that. But
well, at least that form of her, because he saw her in old age before she
Yeah.
died.
and it was nice to see Haley Atwell again. I love her. She is so great as Agent Carter, and it was cool to see her again. But then eventually they get out of there. So Cap and Tony, they got the particles so they can time travel back to the future. And now let's get into the other group of characters who are in different times. Is there anything else about that? Those
There
scenes?
was one little Easter egg with the Agent Carter TV show. When Howard Stark was getting into his car, Jarvis was there.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
I
right.
thought it was Bettany, but you pointed out that it was the Jarvis from the Agent Carter TV show.
Yes.
But it sounded like Paul Bettany's
Yeah.
voiceover, or maybe the guy just did a really good impression of Paul Bettany.
Yeah,
Which-
because in in Agent Carter, that was Jarvis.
Yeah.
Which you can tell us where Tony
Which is the
bases name.
first time since they started doing their TV shows that MCU acknowledged that the TV shows existed.
Oh yeah, well they acknowledge it in the TV shows that the
yeah.
movies existed, but
Right.
yeah, you're right. I can't think of a
Yeah.
moment where it was Avengers 2. Remember the doctor who was healing Hawkeye? Wasn't she in Agents of Shield? Remember the Asian doctor who had the machine that was healing Hawkeye at the
I don't
and then
remember
she
that.
made the Vision's body. She had that healing chamber. I heard that she was from Agents of Shield.
I don't.
Maybe. I'll
It's
have
been a
to-
long time
Do
since
you remember?
I've
It's
seen
like,
Age of Ultron.
is Thor gonna be there when Tony's asking her if she's gonna go to the party, and she's like, I don't do parties.
I remember
Is Thor
her.
gonna be there? I think she was from Agents of Shield. But anyway, yeah, it was a cool little nod to the show. Yeah, and then so let's move on to the next timeline. We have the next one I have written down was War Machine and Nebula. They're on Morag looking for the Power Stone, which was the opening of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Rhodey and Nebula went back with
Oh, yeah.
Hawkeye and Scarlet, and then they split up.
Yeah,
so they went
then-
back to the same time, but then they split up to go do their own missions.
Yes. Hawkeye and Black Widow went to look for the Soul Stone, and fucking so many fucking characters.
And War Machine and Nebula went after the Power Stone.
Yeah, on Morag, which was the opening of Guardians of the Galaxy. And this was really funny because how awesome was the opening of Guardians of the Galaxy when Chris Pratt is just singing to the song
Yeah.
and he's dancing. But it was so cool to see our version of it because you just see Rhodey and Nebula looking at him, and it's not the music. You just hear him singing, and he looks like a fool. And it's just like, he's an idiot. He's an Indian, right? She's like, yeah. And so they just knock him out, and they take his stuff, and they went and they grab the Power Stone. But this is when we start to get more conflict into the story, because when Nebula arrived in this time, it's herself from that time. So there's two of them. It's almost like they run off of some type of internet. And
They share the same network.
Yeah, they share the same network. So since both those nebulas existed at the same time, their minds were crossed. And so Thanos was able to see the plan. He was able to see the Avengers coming back, and because he was just starting to look for the Infinity Stones. And now he has video messaging, which is really odd. And he discovers this is a different nebula from the future. And he figures out, he goes, I got all the time stones, and I snapped. I did it. And they're kind of come back through time and stop me. And that's when things start to get interesting again because what is it? Right after War Machine and Nebula got the Power Stone, they're about to time travel back to the future, and War Machine hits it, and Nebula's about to hit her time machine button, and then she freezes because they're accessing her memory, getting all that information. And so after she comes out of that, she's like, "Holy shit! Thanos knows. He knows!" And she goes running to the ship. She's trying to warn like Clint and
Hawkeye and Black Widow.
Yeah, she's trying to warn them, and then that's when Thanos' ship comes and they take her, and they kind of got her tied up, and they're questioning her, and they take the Pym particle from her time machine suit, and that Nebula takes some of her body parts to make her look like the future Nebula, and she's gonna go time travel to the future and kind of see what's going on.
Infiltrate the group.
Yeah, infiltrate the group to try and get the stones, a faster way to get the stones and stuff. And so, that was pretty much all that with that.
On Morag, yeah.
On Morag. And so let's go to Thor and Rocket on Asgard. Thor and Rocket on Asgard, Fat Thor and Rocket. I love this pair. It's so great. We led up to that in Infinity War, and it was good to see them working together. That was cool. Yeah. But now they're trying to get the ether from. You know what? I watched Thor: Dark World once, and I don't remember the whole story.
Yeah. So basically, the Dark Elves wanted what was called the ether, which gave them power to. Because it was the reality stone to change reality to what they wanted it to be so they could take over. It was in some liquid form, and somehow it got infused into Jane Foster.
Yeah.
So their plan was to go back and extract it from Jane Foster to bring it back.
Yeah, and they're trying to do that, but then Thor sees his mom, and he's just really in like a self-hatred mode. Like he just hates himself, and he's I can't do it. I can't do this. Yeah. My mom dies today, and he goes running off, and Rocket's just like, God damn it, I gotta go do this myself. And so Rocket goes after the ether from Jane Foster, and Thor sees his mom again from the distance, and then she kind of sneaks up on him. He's like, oh shit. And so he has an interaction with his mom, and she looks at him, and she knows he's from the future because she says, I was born from witches, you know?
Yeah, I was born from magic.
Yeah, from magic. So I know that you're from the future, and the future hasn't been kind to you and stuff like that. And, man, right off the top of my head, I forget exactly what they talked about, but they talked about...
he tried to warn her what was going to happen at one point.
Well, that was right at the end. He was trying to warn her what was going to happen, but basically she was.
He told her what happened because the interaction when they're in the other room starts off with her saying, "Yeah, you failed."
Yeah,
and he's like, "That's not a good pep talk."
Yeah,
and she's like, "But everyone fails." And it's her letting him know that it's okay, and this is where she is telling him to stop trying to be what he is supposed to be and be who he wants to be.
Yeah, that was a cool little lesson because that goes into later on in the movie. We'll get to that, but that was cool. And then you see Rocket running for his life because he got the ether and he's being chased by all the Asgardian guys, and he's talking to Thor. It's like, Thor, I'm in trouble, you know. He goes running up and he finds Thor, and he's like, all right. He goes, I got it. Let's go. He's like, all right, let's go. He's like, wait. And then you just see him stick out his arm, and
what are you doing?
Yeah, he's calling Mjolnir, and the mom is just like, it always takes a second, and you just see it flying into his hands from the distance, and he's like, yeah, I'm still worthy. And it felt like he was just doing that because he wanted to know if he was still worthy to rule Asgard. He goes, I'm still worthy. He's like, all right. And then they timed it, and he brings Mjolnir with him to the future, and it was just like, fuck yeah, Stormbreaker and Mjolnir, fuck yeah, dude. So that was it for Asgard. And so now let's get into the last time travel group, which was Hawkeye and Black Widow looking for the Soul Stone. And I'm kind of 50-50 on this scene. I mean, I liked it. I understood what it was, but it was just such a carbon copy of the scene from Infinity War. Because obviously that's how you have to get the Soul Stone. There's no other place in time where they could have gotten the Soul Stone.
Not even the Soul Stone, or from Infinity War. It was also almost an exact replica of what happened in Age of Ultron.
What do you mean?
Well, we're going there. Eventually Scarlet Witch ends up sacrificing herself when Hawkeye's about to go do that. So there was that like quick fake out of Hawkeye sacrificing himself or dying. In Age of Ultron, as he's loading people into the ships, all of a sudden the guns get targeted on him and start firing.
Oh, that's cool. You're talking about Quicksilver.
Well, right, but it's the same thing. Like, we thought Hawkeye was going to die. He went through, like, it was targeted at him, and then we find out at the last minute that somebody else sacrificed themselves so that Hawkeye could survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we get introduced to the Red Skull again, and he's talking to
Which was not Hugo Weaving again.
Yeah, and he's talking to Black Widow and Hawkeye, and he's telling them the rules on how to get the Soul Stone. And there's a little bit of a time break because once he explains it, you see this wide shot, and it felt like it was a couple minutes later, and now Hawkeye and Black Widow are just sitting down contemplating what to do. And that's when they start to get in the battle of like, I want to die. No, I want to die. I want to die for this. No, I'm going to die. And it was a really cool action scene of those two trying to kill themselves and the other one stopping it to the point where they're both hanging over the cliff edge, which didn't make sense to me because if it was just Hawkeye running and jumping and killing himself, that wouldn't really grant you the right to get the Soul Stone. Well, what happened was it finally got to the point where he was holding on to Black Widow over the edge, and she was just like, "Let go," and then he let go, and so it was that act that actually granted them being able to get the Soul Stone, because you have to sacrifice what you love most in the world, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, what Hawkeye would have ended up sacrificing is he would have sacrificed his family, because he would have done that to not be able to see him again, when his whole purpose of doing it was so that his family would survive.
Okay.
So he was, in essence, sacrificing something.
Yeah.
It was just Black Widow was sacrificing her life for everyone else, and he was only doing it for his family. So that was like a bit of a greater sacrifice,
which
if it makes sense.
Yeah, in the end, he didn't even let her go. She forced herself off of him. She used the rock as momentum to break the grip off of him.
Well, I mean, sometimes, I mean, we'll get into this a little bit later, how they did break some of the rules that were set in the other movies, but we'll get into that later. But so Black Widow dies. And I was completely surprised on that, because in hindsight, you would think that they would switch it where Hawkeye would die, because you still need Black Widow for the rest of the Marvel movies going forward, because she was that kind of staple, that center character after the snap, where she was kind of holding everybody together.
Yeah.
And she dies, and I felt kind of like about it, because they just copied and pasted Gamora's death. It was literally the same imagery.
Yeah, and she landed the same way. The reason I thought it fit better than Hawkeye dying, of course, besides him, in the family and all of that, is because of her journey to this point. So she was raised as a weapon, a emotionless, cold-hearted weapon, and Barton helped bring her out of that. She joined the Avengers, and throughout time, then she became more human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and everything. That's
right. She gained feelings for another individual.
You see her crying in the movie.
Yeah, she started. So she has made this large transition. So for her going from that calculated, cold, follow orders weapon to giving up her life, not only for basically her best friend, so he can be with his family, but for the world.
Yeah,
it was like the perfect ending for her story.
Absolutely. And it was sad, because when we were watching all the MCU movies, there's always been like rumors like, oh, they're going to do a Black Widow movie. And it's just kind of like, oh, I'm like, but why? Yeah. And then after all these movies, it's just like, she does deserve her own movie, especially after she died. You don't know what you got till it's gone. It's like one of those things. But they are doing a Black Widow movie, so obviously it's going to be a fucking prequel. And I think they start shooting this summer. Is it this summer they're shooting? I think so. I think it's pretty soon. Yeah. I think what was it, David Arbor, who played Hellboy, it was announced that he's in it. Yeah. And he was just like, yeah, we're shooting soon. And that's how I knew that Hellboy was going to suck. When he's already promoting another movie he's in. But anyway, so Black Widow dies. And Clint wakes up with the Soul Stone. And he time travels back to the future. And now all of the main players, they're all back into the future. We're done with the time traveling aspect for now. And they're all at the Avengers headquarters base. They all got the stones, but then everybody's looking like, where's Nat? Where is she? And then that's when Clint was just like, she's gone. She's gone. And that's when they're like, that's what the Soul Stone does. You have to sacrifice somebody.
Yeah. Which is kind of a dick move, because Nebula knew that already.
Yeah, that was something I was thinking about. Why didn't she say that? By the way,
like, at least give them a heads up. Like, this is what it takes to get it.
bring somebody you don't like and then just force those feelings before you kill them, throw them off. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying, I wonder what would have happened if out of the 4 people that went to that timeline, what if they decided that Rhodey and Nebula go get the Soul Stone and Widow and Hawkeye get the Power Stone? How would they have gotten the Soul Stone?
Well, they wouldn't have
don't
been
know.
able to get the Power Stone either.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking.
Yeah, so it worked out perfectly by coincidence that they had the right people.
That's true. I mean, Nebula had to go to get the Power Stone, but I think that she probably maybe even set it up where those two went to go get it because she knew what needed to happen and nobody would have gone to go get it if they knew what was going to happen. And she knew that those two characters were close and she would give them that decision.
And Ant-Man called not it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so funny. Oh, but speaking of which, another throwback is when they're doing the plan to figure out which time to go get all the stones, and Scott and they're like, oh, the Power Stone's on Morag, and he's just like, where's Morag? You know, it's another planet, like in outer space. He's like, oh, the puppy wants to go to outer space. You want to go to outer space, little buddy? Yeah, it's just so funny. But anyway, so what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, on a more serious note, you said that when they came back, that's when they realized that Scarlet's missing, and then this is where you see the Hulk break down.
Yeah.
Right there in the middle.
Yeah, they're hold on, let me turn my flashlight off. They're on the lake right there, and they're all just mourning the loss of Black Widow, and this is where Clint. And you hear this come up a couple more times in the movie. We can't bring her back. They really made the audience know that there's no way that she's coming back. He's like, the guy said that she can't come back no matter what we do. The Soul Stone or all the Infinity Stones won't bring her back. And you see Hulk actually get mad again. You see Dr. Banner pick up the bench and he throws it into the ocean, not into the ocean, in the lake. And then he goes into saying, you know what, we can't bring her back, so we have to make sure that it was for a reason. We have to make it meaningful.
Yeah. But going into that, like the solidifying that we can't bring her back, the souls can't bring her back, is also saying that Gamora died.
Yeah.
Like there's no bringing her back either.
Yeah, that it means that as well too. And so we go to back into Avengers headquarters, and they have all the stones, and Tony is designing a gauntlet for it. He's designing his own Infinity Gauntlet, and we talked about this earlier today when it was one of those things where rules are set up earlier in the franchises, and then they kind of break these rules. How is Tony able to build something that can hold the Infinity Stones?
Yeah, and that's the thing, because Thanos, and we're under the understanding his technology must be advanced from what we've seen. So even him with someone that's advanced, and his second in command is also highly intelligent.
Yeah, Ebony Maw.
Yeah, he had to go to the super blacksmith dwarf and go get this gauntlet made from a dwarf star from the same armory that made Stormbreaker and Mjolnir.
Yeah.
And Tony Stark's like, he's got some stuff over here. I'm just gonna build one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm chalking it up to Tony Stark, obviously being a scientist, very intelligent. He probably has all the specs that are available for like when he snapped and the energy source, and he is a weapon builder. He was a weapons builder.
Also,
I'm chalking it up to that.
Yeah, he's using all of the nanotechnology that came from Wakanda, which is vibranium, which came from outer space. And so putting all that together, you could say that maybe vibranium is able to hold on to that, but it feels like it's not. But anyway, they have to move the story along. What are they going to go fly another mission to go find fucking Peter Dinklage
or open the sun and get blasted with all that again?
Yeah, so they had to keep the story going. And so they make the Infinity Gauntlet, the new one. And I think it's when they're deciding who's going to wear it, you see Nebula, who's the evil Nebula from the past. She comes into the time machine room, and you see her fingers go fucking R2-D2 and starts fucking fingering the time machine, and it's changing it. And so she's bringing in Thanos' ship, his big, huge mothership, into this time. And that's when Hulk decides to put on the Infinity, like, I'm going to put on the Infinity Gauntlet.
Well,
look what it did to Thanos. And I'm the only one who can physically take it. Thor wanted to do it, but Tony was just like, you're too out of shape. You physically and mentally can't do this because you're not in the right state of mind.
And what gives Hulk the advantage is a lot of the energy that comes out of the gauntlet is gamma. And Hulk was born of gamma.
Yeah, that's where it all came from. And so he puts it on, and you see all the stones get activated, and it starts calling up his arm. It's like, and they're like, and you can see his arms start to burn, and they're like, Hulk, are you okay? Are you okay? It's like, I'm okay. You see him just thinking. All of a sudden, he just like snaps. And there was almost like a big explosion, kind of a little bit, just a big, powerful moment. And then the gauntlet falls off of his arm, and he's there injured, and Tony kind of heals him really quick with his fucking nano spray. And then you see Scott just start walking out to the windows, and he sees it's like lively with birds, and there's like a lot of life, and he's just like, it worked. And then you hear Hawkeye's phone ringing, and it's his wife, and he's just like, and he goes and answers it, and he hears his wife's voice, and you almost see tears come to his eye. And as Scott Lang is looking up out the windows, you just see a missile coming straight for the Avengers facility.
Oh yeah, Hulk sees it through the sunroof.
Yeah, and he sees Hulk sees the ship above them, and the whole building just explodes, and they're all like separated, and they lose the gauntlet. It falls into this big crater that was made from all that. And Thanos ends up coming down with, I think it was just Thanos that came in.
It was just
first?
Thanos, and he met up with
Nebula.
Nebula was charged with going to get the gauntlet, and was like, "What are you gonna do?" I'm gonna wait.
I'm gonna sit here and wait.
Yeah.
And then and all the other characters, they're all underneath the rubble in different parts. So we see Thor and Captain America and Iron Man. They join Thor, who's already just staring at Thanos from a distance.
So what has he been doing?
Yeah, just sitting there, and then he's just like, let's do it proper. Like, let's kill him right this time. And then you just see Thor call Stormbreaker and Mjolnir together, and he's got both, and everybody's like, yeah, because now we're getting into the third act, And then there's the big battle between Thanos, Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor, and they're all battling, and Thanos is doing a good job throwing them all off, right? He knocks down Cap, he knocks down Iron Man, and now he's fighting Thor, and they purposely showed Thor drop Mjolnir, and it's just standing there on the ground. There's like slow dramatic zooms onto it, and you see Thanos on top of Thor, and he's beating him up, and Thor calls Stormbreaker, and then but Thanos grabs Stormbreaker as it comes flying towards him, and he's trying to puncture him in the chest, and it's going really slow. All of a sudden, you just see Mjolnir just lift up off the ground, and it goes flying towards Thanos, and it knocks him out. And then you see the Mjolnir come flying back like it's being called, and we're all like, "Who is calling Mjolnir?" Thor is just sitting there like he just got his ass beat, and then it goes flying back, and you just see Captain America just grab Mjolnir, and everybody was just went, "Oh shit, he's worthy!"
Yeah.
That was the fucking coolest
And
part.
totally paid off Age of Ultron.
Oh my god, yeah, it did, dude.
And then he fucks Thanos up.
Yeah, you see Thanos just like getting his ass beat with Cap. He's using the shield and Mjolnir.
Yeah.
What I really liked about it, you see Cap throw the shield over past Thanos. It goes behind him, and then he throws Mjolnir, and it hits it together like how they did in like the first Avengers movies and the second one, and it creates that big boom, and it knocked Thanos down. And he's just that visuals were, it was so amazing.
And then he's
seeing that fight.
throwing the shield. It bounces back. He hits it with the hammer.
And then he uses the lightning. He can summon the lightning too.
He wielded Mjolnir like a fucking boss.
That was the thing. I'm there watching. I'm like, this is awesome. But then part of me is like, damn, Thor had this for like 1,000 years. Cap had it for 10 seconds, and he already knows how to call lightning? Like, who explained this to him?
Dude, I didn't even fucking care, because it was at this point in the movie. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat for most of the movie. It was this point where I jumped up out of my seat screaming, and so did the whole fucking audience. It was such an amazing moment seeing that happen. It's almost bringing tears to your eyes. It's great. But then Thanos gets the upper hand on him. You know, he's got his like helicopter fucking sword, fucking Darth Maul over there, you know, and he's beating Cap up, and he hits the shield, and he breaks the shield, and then and he knocks him down, and then that's when Thanos starts to monologue again, you know, and this is what I liked about how they changed Thanos a little bit, because he's in a little different mindset. In Infinity War, he was just like, I'm going to be merciful and only kill half of everything. And now he's like, now that I've seen that plan doesn't work, you guys aren't gracious that I gave you life and only half of you survive. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to destroy everything and start over again with a smile on my face. And that's when it kind of like, because I am inevitable or something like that. And then that's when Cap picks up the shield, and it's kind of broken, and then all of a sudden you hear the radio kind of trickling in, and everything slows down, and you're expecting something to happen, and then the radio crackles, and you hear Cap, and it's go ahead,
Sam. On your left.
And then you start to see all like the Doctor Strange like mystical circles, the portals start opening up, and that's when everybody who died starts to come back, and it was such an emotional moment seeing all the characters, every single fucking hero.
Who do we get first? First we got
Black Panther,
Okoye, Black Panther, and Shuri. Who showed up next?
Yeah, I don't remember. There's all of them.
Well,
they all showed up.
But
It was Falcon.
Falcon, when Spider-Man swooped through and just stood there.
Oh man, that was dude. I started crying when I saw Spider-Man in the distance webbing up and joining the rest of the Avengers. I was just like, oh shit, oh man, this is it. And then Thanos is looking at all the teams coming out, and that's when you just see Cap just pick up his shield. He tightens it up and he grabs Mjolnir and Avengers assemble, and that
charge.
Oh god damn, that was so fucking cool, wasn't it?
That was fucking awesome.
Everybody was cheering, crying, and you got the reunion of people who have been separated from their loved ones because of the fucking snap. My favorite reunion was obviously Spider-Man and Tony Stark. Oh man, like the way that Spider-Man comes in, it's like, Mr. Stark, I don't know what happened. Last thing I remember, we were on the planet, and I was starting to go to dust. All of a sudden, I woke up, and Doctor Strange was like, "It's been 5 years. Hurry up, we gotta go help Tony." You know, and then
all Tony does is hug him.
He just stares at him, and you can see tears build up, and he just grabs him and he just hugs him, because it's all another callback to Homecoming. When Tony's just like, it looks like he's reaching over to hug him, and he's like, "Oh, hug." He's like, "Nope, just open up the door, get out." And now he actually hugs him. He's like, "Oh, this feels nice." Just all that. There's just, I don't even know where to start, what to talk about in this part.
There was just, oh my god, so much shit. It was amazing. Pepper Potts coming in as rescue.
Oh man, I didn't see that coming. That was fucking rad.
Valkyrie coming in on a fucking Pegasus.
That was so great.
There was that one moment between Tony Stark and Doctor Strange. Was like, so is this that 1 in 14 million situation that you were talking about? I was like, if I told you, it wouldn't be it. Doctor Strange is the king of holding back spoilers.
Yeah, he is. He goes, if I tell you, it can't happen. It may not happen. If you know what's going to happen, you might fuck it up.
Yeah.
What were some other cool parts?
What was it? Two cool sequences before we even got to that point that we didn't touch on was one with the gauntlet being caught underground.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Hawkeye finds the gauntlet, but he's being chased down by
the space dogs.
Yeah. The space dogs. So you have a cool action sequence where he's escaping using his arrows, pretty much being badass. Yeah. In there, and he finally escapes all of them. Gets up top. He's exhausted. Sees Nebula. He thinks is good Nebula.
Yeah.
Gives her the gauntlet, and then she calls Thanos, and that's when he realizes it. And you see good Nebula actually show up
with Gamora.
They try to talk her down.
Yeah, past Gamora.
Past
Gamora, who came along in the ship with Thanos. And they try to talk her down. It doesn't work. And good Gamora ends up shooting past Gamora.
No, Nebula.
Nebula.
Good Nebula.
Yeah, good Nebula shoots bad Nebula, kills her in there. So we had that sequence, which was pretty cool. The real good Captain one that I like is So after he beats him down and he gives a speech on how Earth is so annoying that he's going to enjoy what he's going to do to them, that's when his army starts showing up.
Yeah,
and the troops start going through. And Captain just gets up, straps on his shield,
that's right.
and walks up to him. And he's ready to take down the entire army by himself.
Yeah.
And that's when we get the Sam.
Yeah.
call.
Oh, dude, that's fucking so awesome.
And then another one is because at this time, while the on your left thing, everyone's going down. Hulk, Ant-Man, and Rhodey are all trapped, and Rocket are all trapped underneath the building still. So they all show up. Doctor Strange and Spider-Man are there. It's like, are we all back? It's like, we're still missing a few. And then Ant-Man becomes Giant Man, busts everything out, and everyone goes down there, and that's when we see Rocket and Rhodey.
Yep. Oh, by the way, that just reminded me of another type of plot hole, a possible plot hole. So when Rhodey and Rocket and Hulk are all underneath the rubble, Rhodey is in his War Machine suit, but it's malfunctioned. It's not working because of the damage. And he's like, canopy. And it all opened up. And even his attachments that help him walk, his prosthetics, because he was injured in Civil War, they weren't working. And so he's crawling over to Rocket to try to help Rocket, who's trapped on the rubble and he can't breathe. And so Ant-Man does come and he rescues them, and while Hulk is holding up all the rubble as much as he can. Yeah. And when he releases them, War Machine is in a new suit. Mm-hmm. He's in a brand new suit. Where did he get it?
I'm gonna just go out on after the whole incident. Whenever Rhodey was at the bunker, he always had tools in his hand, so he was probably working on something consistently.
Oh, really? That was something I didn't catch.
Yeah,
because it wasn't the same suit. It was a completely different suit.
I'm gonna throw it up as like seeing him, especially in Infinity War when Cap finally shows up. Like he's got tools in his hands. He's in a workshop. Okay. I'm gonna chalk it up to he was working on a new suit. So when this one wasn't working, But
the thing with that, and this is where I'm in agreement with Kevin, is the entire facility was destroyed.
Everything was destroyed.
So with them just busting out of there, I don't know how he got to the suit. But then
it makes for a damn good movie.
Well, not everything was destroyed. The shitty fucking van from Ant-Man.
That made it. But yeah, some of these things is to continue your story. Like, we discussed earlier how they set a certain rule with the PIM particles. You need that, and you need the GPS to do the traveling through time.
Yeah.
But then Thanos was able to make it through. But they never mention him having access to any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but they needed that to continue it because he needed to attack the facility.
Yeah, this is one of the things that, I mean, if you think really hard, you can piece it all together. I mean, they didn't really hold any audience's hands in this movie because it's already 3 hours long and they can't explain everything.
Yeah, but they cut it down from like 5 hours.
Yeah, they did put the dots out there for you to connect yourself. As far-reaching as those dots may or may not be, you could explain how it possibly could happen. They just couldn't do that in this movie. They couldn't explain all of it right there. And so that's where I kind of forgive some of the things because it's already 3 fucking hours.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Once we got into the battle, it had a bunch of good moments. Especially with character interaction. So you mentioned the Peter Parker and the Iron Man.
Instant kill! Activate instant kill, and then all the spider legs are just coming out, stabbing all the fucking space dogs like crazy. It was just like, yeah!
But you also had the moment where Rocket jumps to protect Groot and lands on top of him.
Before that, because what caused that was Scarlet Witch comes up and starts going one-on-one with Thanos.
Oh, she went
and she's like, what did she say first?
It's like, you took everything
from me.
I don't even know who you are.
And he's like, you will.
Yeah. And she starts fucking him up.
That was cool.
The best part about it is out of all of Captain Marvel, Iron Man, Captain America, where it is, she is the only one
who could possibly just kill him.
Who in this movie, she took him, didn't even break a sweat, and was about to wipe him out
until he hit panic.
He's like, panic. He's like, this bitch is about to kill me. Help me. Throw all the bombs.
Yeah.
It's like, what about our army? Fuck it, man. I'm about to die.
Yeah, and that's when Rocket jumped over Groot to protect him.
Yeah, they started bombarding everybody, and all the magicians or all the wizards are holding up those shields, those magic shields, trying to stop it. And that's when another fucking Lord of the Rings moment. Look to my coming on the 3rd hour of the 3rd day over the mountain. And fucking Captain Marvel, who's been missing the whole movie, thank God, because I can't stand her, comes flying in outer space, and she just completely blows up Thanos' ship. It gets destroyed, and she goes down, and she just starts fighting Thanos. No, she doesn't fight Thanos yet. She because at this moment the gauntlet had made its way up to the Avengers, and they're all trying to get it to the
so
van.
relay race
Spider-Man
right
has it. He activated insta-kill, and then all of a sudden he gets overrun.
Yeah, it's a football game from hell.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Because their plan at this moment is they can't let him get the ring. And the only time machine they have left after the facility being destroyed is from the van. Ant-Man's van.
You mean the gauntlet? You said the ring.
Sorry,
This is
the
Lord
gauntlet.
of the Rings.
It's because you said Lord of the Rings.
No.
Yeah, so they need to get the stones over there, so they're gonna use the van to get it. So now it becomes a relay race where they're passing the gauntlet to each other, trying to get it to that van.
And then Peter Parker's got it, and he's like huddled in a corner, and Captain Marvel comes flying in. She lands right in front of him. Is like, "Oh, hey, what's up? I'm Peter Parker," and she's so bad, dude.
Hey,
Yeah, what she said.
Peter Parker.
Yeah, I got this.
Hey, Peter Parker. She's just like so like stiff and just so monotone. It's just like, man, it wasn't just the Captain Marvel movie directors. I mean, she's not a very good Captain Marvel, and she's not a very good actress. I think it's too much pressure for her. And it was just, although we'll give them props for giving her the short haircut. You know what I mean?
And it's the character too. Like Carol Danvers in the comics, just in general, isn't very good.
Yeah, I could sense that.
Yeah. Like they should have picked another Captain Marvel. They should have gone Miss Marvel.
I just remembered Ant-Man punching.
The big giant sea whales.
He just gives him a hook.
Oh, that was cool. That was so
remember
funny.
that.
Just we could talk about this third battle forever, but we got to start wrapping things up.
One more
Anything
thing.
else?
Was it not badass of Pepper and Iron Man working together
yes,
up there,
God.
watching each other sex?
She
And then
finally wore what he got her.
And then again, she saves Peter Parker while he's trying to get away. She's like, and he's falling. He's like, oh, she's like, I got you, kid. It was just that line that she said, I got you, kid. She is fucking full hero. She has those snappy one-liners like Tony Stark has, and I'm excited to see that her could continue to play this character in the future.
I hope
movies.
so.
Yeah.
I really hope so too, because they need it, you know. And so now we're getting up to that one moment. You know, Captain Marvel comes in and she's fighting Thanos. He finally gets the gauntlet.
Yeah, because what he does is he sees what they're doing and he blows up the van before they get there. So then it's a battle for the gauntlet.
Yeah, it's the battle for the gauntlet, and Thanos and Captain Marvel are fighting over it. And at this moment, Tony looks over at Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange isn't seeing anything, but is kind of quiet, and he's just looking at Tony, and he's slowly starting to raise his one finger, like this is the one part, this is the one shot, and it's right when Captain Marvel, she can take a beating from Thanos, because he tried to headbutt her, and she didn't even budge. It was almost like when Batman punched Superman, and it didn't even move.
To the point where he needed to remove the Power Stone to put in his other hand to get the upper hand.
Which this was a callback to Infinity War, because right when that happened, it was like the same scene with Captain America in Infinity War. She's like down on one knee holding the gauntlet, and then he headbutted Captain America, and that's what gave him the advantage.
Yeah.
So he tried to do the same thing to her,
and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And then he pulled the Power Stone off of the gauntlet, and he hits her with it. And as he puts it into the gauntlet again, he kind of gets that jolt of power. It's like, where he's kind of like distracted. And that's when Tony flies in, and he just grabs the gauntlet, and they're kind of struggling with his hands on the gauntlet. And then finally, fucking Thanos kicks him away, and he still has the gauntlet. He kind of tightens the gauntlet again, and he just looks at Tony, and he just goes, I am inevitable. And he goes and snaps, but nothing happens. It was kind of like this moment. He looks and all the stones are gone, and then the camera just whip pans to Iron Man, and you just see him holding all the stones in his gauntlet, and it's forming the gauntlet, and he just looks at me and goes, I am Iron Man. And he just snaps his fingers, and that's when all the bad guys start to dust off, like how Infinity War was. And it was a really cool mirrored moment from how the end of Infinity War was. And then you see Thanos realize that he's lost, and he just goes and he just sits down like he did at the end of Infinity War, and then you just see him dissolve, and that's the end of it, because now everybody just looks to Tony, because like there's no way he's gonna survive that, and you can see he's beat up. And this was everybody was crying at this part.
Yeah,
man.
you could. It did so much damage to him that like he's not even responding to Rhodey or Peter Parker. He's just looking at them. Words are not coming out of his mouth.
But he's still there, and you could see like his eyes, and he's looking at somebody. And Peter got to have that moment where he got to watch Tony die. And just like how Tony watched him die, and he's like, no. And this was like so powerful, because Pepper comes in, and she is trying to just protect Peter from this. Is like, because that's her husband, that's the father of her child, and she's just like, it's okay, Peter, it's okay. And she just looks at Tony, and she asks for Friday, his AI, like what's his damage? Is like, it's critical, like he's gonna die. And she just looks at Tony, and she's like, it's okay. It's okay, Tony. We're all safe.
Yeah, we're gonna be okay.
You can rest now, because it calls back to earlier in the film when he was talking to her, and he's like, maybe I should just bury the time travel theory at the bottom of the ocean. She's like, yeah, but will you rest?
Yeah.
And now she's like, you can rest, and he just dies, and it's just like, oh, and what surprised me, because I thought Cap was gonna die, and he didn't.
Yeah,
he was just standing there. I'm like, Cap doesn't die. I'm like, they made such a big deal that this was Chris Evans' last movie.
Yeah. This is one of the problems that I had with it. And when we get further along, then I'll bring it up again.
Okay. But Tony dying, it's like, the silence says it all.
Yeah. And then that's the thing, like, and this was for the whole theater. The whole theater was such a high.
Yeah.
There was like, yeah, whoo, all right.
Because you forgot for an instant, for a couple of minutes, that we were going to lose somebody very important.
And everyone was screaming. And then as soon as you see him stumble to his corner and sit down, it was dead silence.
Yep.
All you hear in the theater was...
Yeah, you could hear it, and that was all from me. I was doing cocaine to alter the. But yeah, so Tony dies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
you, Robert Downey Jr.
Yep. It was only fitting. Honestly, it started with him. Mm-hmm. It ended with him.
Mm-hmm. That funeral scene. It was so hot. Like I was actually all out crying at that point. I was just like,
dude, I'm tearing up again just thinking about it.
I know, I am too. Just thinking about it, because like that's what the power of having 11 years worth of movies, good movies too.
A couple falters, but overall high success, high quality.
There were some learning curves.
Yeah,
there were some learning curves.
Mostly Thor.
Everybody at Tony's like little lake house that was in the earlier part of the film. They're kind of doing almost like a Vikings funeral, where they have the little wreath, and with the first arc reactor Tony made that says proof that Tony Stark has a heart, and they just set it off, and the camera just slowly pans over the crowd, and you just see all the characters. They're all just there in mourning, staring at it. You see everybody, and it ends,
even the kid from
Iron Man 3. Yeah, he's like, it's so funny because you didn't even, Jose, you were just like, wait, who was that kid?
Yeah, I'm like, that's this random kid.
He was the kid from Iron Man 3 in Jurassic World. He's like all grown up now, and it's so weird. But yeah, we got to see everybody, and that wasn't easy. Yeah, and the part that just made me really lose it is you saw Happy sitting on the porch with Tony's daughter, and he's, what does he say? What are you thinking about? And she's like, I'm hungry. What do you want to eat?
Yeah.
She's like, cheeseburgers.
Your dad loves cheeseburgers.
Your dad loves cheeseburgers. I'm going to get you all the cheeseburgers you want. And I was like, somebody get Tony Stark's daughter some fucking cheeseburgers, all right? I'm really sad. Get her some cheeseburgers now.
For me, so I held it fairly well together, like when he died and that scene and everything. So I was getting like the watery eyes, but I was doing the whole like, no.
You were fighting.
But then what finally did it is he leaves a video for them, and while this video's happening, you're seeing like Ant-Man with his daughter and people with their families.
Yeah, it was monologue. Yeah,
You're seeing Panther with Okoye and his mother in Wakanda. So everything doing better, and this is right before they start the mission. He's basically saying this is gonna be dangerous, but then he's like, "But don't worry, everything's gonna work out the way it is." And his hologram basically looks straight at his daughter
Yeah.
and repeats the line, "Love you 3000."
yeah. Oh my god!
And I was just like, "That's it."
Yeah,
You got me.
It was so sad, and it was like a bittersweet because that story arc kind of has to end at some point, and it's because he started it all, and his last living words were "I am Iron Man," and it was just so poetic.
Yeah.
That after the first movie, his last words were "I am Iron Man," and his last moments as Tony Stark were "I am Iron Man."
And you recall back, Thanos' line in the last movie where he's like, "I hope they remember you,"
Yep.
and they're gonna remember him.
Fuck yeah, they are. I'm gonna remember forever. Yeah. So now you kind of see the aftermath of that. You see the characters kind of going their own way. I love it because Thor and Valkyrie are talking. They're overlooking New Asgard, whatever it's called, and he's just like, "All right, well, I gotta go." She's like, "No, they need their king," and he's like, "Well, they got one." And he looks at her, and she's like, "Haha, funny." He's like, "No, I'm basically serious. This is the first time in 1,000 years that I don't have a path to follow. I want to discover who I am." And because that's something that his mom taught him when he went to time travel back. And he's still fat, by the way.
Yep. He's still the Big Lebowski.
And she's like, where are you going to go? He's like, "Oh, I got a ride." And all of a sudden it just pans to Rocket by the ship. He's like, "You coming?" It was just like, "Of course." And then there's another, because after that sadness of the funeral, you do need a little uplifting moment. And it was fun to see the Guardians on the ship with Thor. And it's him and Chris Pratt arguing over who's going to be, who's the leader.
But
and
we all know who's in charge.
Yeah.
The Asgardians
Yeah.
of the galaxy.
The Asgardians of the galaxy. That was so funny. Look, you two should fight to see who's the winner and be. That was so funny.
Yeah,
in
you see
tracks.
Rocky. He's like, "I got pistols."
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Knife." Yes, do a knife fight.
Yeah. That was fun.
Which
Just
means Thor's in Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
being directed by James Gunn. Hell yeah! What's up?
Which is hilarious because, like, I remember before Ragnarok came out, he would tell the story on how he saw the first Guardians, and he was like, "I love this. This is what I want."
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
if he ends up on it,
Yeah, that's so cool, man. That's because his personality totally fits in with that
Oh, yeah.
crew. But yeah, so that wraps up, and now we get into the final part of the movie where they now have to return the time stones, all the stones to
Yep.
their different times, and this is another thing. How did they build another time machine so fast?
I'm guessing there was some time.
Yeah,
Yeah, a little
and
bit.
Banner was still around, so he knew everything that needed to be done. It's
Probably-
a lot easier building it the second time than it is the first time.
Yeah, because they now know what to do. But so Cap is he's suited up and he's gonna go back, which I thought was kind of odd. But why wouldn't they all just help out and just go back? But it was just Cap, and he's got his shield and the Mjolnir, and he's got the case filled with the Infinity Stones. And he's like, "All right, you have to return them all to the moment that they were taken." He's like, I got it. I know everything. I know what I got to do." And he just goes back.
Yep.
And he's like, "Oh, how long is he going to be? However, it's going to be 10 seconds for us, but however long Cap needs in there, because, that's how time works." And so he sends them down in time, and then he's just like, "All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then they press a button, and then he doesn't come back.
Yep.
And they're all just like, "What the fuck? What the hell's going on? Where is he? Where is he? I don't know." And then Bucky just turns around and he just notices something by the lake. And then they all just kind of stop and stare. And you see somebody sitting down on a bench by the lake. And then they kind of know what's happening. At this point, I was just like, "Whoa, what the fuck is happening?" One last little surprise.
Yeah. This is what I didn't like about the movie.
I didn't mind it. But Sam goes walking up with Bucky. And they notice that it's Cap. And he's very old, and he's just sitting there. And so it's revealed that after he did all that stuff, he just stayed in the past just to live out his days because they don't need Captain America anymore. And I thought the aging process they did on Chris Evans was really good.
Yeah, no, the aging, the acting, like everything, the way that they did it, I liked. I just didn't like it being the end for that character.
Yeah, well, it's not. because there's so much that we didn't see. So it is possible that they could go back to a different decade where he went back to, and at some point in the future MCU use him again.
Right.
And I think that they most definitely will after enough time has come back, because they're going to need another callback to one of the original Avengers. And so, but anyway, back to him being old. Even his acting, you said that his acting was really good, because a lot of people overact being old, and he just got all like the little subtleties of it, just like the way he was just sitting there, and I don't know, man.
Yeah,
he
the
just
little
did a
look,
really
the way
good
he
job.
moved his hand over with like the handshake and everything like that. Like
Yeah.
it was really well done. I mean, I just didn't like it because like I understand it being like referencing to the whole Tony Stark told him to get a life, and he even said that in the end is like, I took Tony's advice. But Cap, for me at least, through the comics, he needs to be a character who, if he's going to step away, he does so fighting. Like even in the comics, when he turned old, he was still like the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. and he was still fighting. He didn't have the physical capabilities, but he was still doing shit. Like he needs to be a character that goes out fighting, which is why I wanted him to die at the end of it.
Well, I thought that he was going to die in this movie, but I also thought that they were going to do it in a way where it would be possible to bring him back, and they did do that, but they didn't kill him. It is possible for him to come back. All they have to do is just time travel back to a period that he was at, and he didn't even die as an old guy. He's just there. I'm here, but I'm old now.
Yeah, and I'm sure, especially with what they presented to us from Peggy Carter, is he didn't just go back, met up, and then all of a sudden they became domestic.
Yeah.
You know, with her still being, director and all of that, I'm pretty sure they still went on their missions.
Yeah.
And he was still fighting. Plus, he still had, Milner with him too.
No, he had to return Mjolnir when he returned to the ether. He had to return it for Thor. He needed it in that.
You know what I was thinking afterwards, picturing him returning these stones.
Yeah.
How awkward must have been between him and Red Skull.
Yeah.
He comes to return it. Like, I know I'm part of the reason you're here, but can you put this back for me?
I didn't even think about that. That's so fucking funny. But I was also thinking, I'm like, yeah, it's nice that Cap was able to go do that. But did this motherfucker not even think of the implications of the butterfly effect he just created? I'm just going to go insert myself into blanks at a time and just live out the rest of my days not worrying about what future things I might happen to accidentally do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, he's sitting there on the edge with Sam, and he just basically gives him his shield, and you're the new Captain America. Which is, I mean, you guys were telling me that is part of the comics. That is what happens in the comics. But why the fuck? He doesn't even have superpowers. It's basically just letting a little kid pretend that he's going to be Captain America.
Oh, he is, yeah, because both Bucky and him carry the mantle of Captain America. So then there was a speculation, who is it going to be? It was a toss-up between each of them. Mm-hmm. So it was a surprise that it went to Sam. But I guess it does make sense with Finn here because he is the soldier, the good guy.
Yeah. He was the one that he first ran into and kind of brought him into the current world.
Yeah, and even though it was brainwashed, Bucky was a murderer. He killed a lot of people in there. So it does make sense because
He's
Sam,
adopted.
Yeah, Sam is the closest thing out of both of them to Captain America's
Set of
personality
standards.
and virtues.
Yeah, I get that. And so,
It was funny. The second time I watched it, when he gives him the shield, where he's like, "Try this on," I heard like 2 or 3 people no inside the theater.
I'm gonna be honest though, I'm not a big fan of Anthony Mackie just in general. Like, I just seen him in a lot of interviews, especially around the time like Man of Steel and Batman v Superman stuff came out. Like, just like how cocky he was and self-centered when he was doing it. He's just ragging on everything. I just didn't like that. And it just made me not like him so much as a character. But, yeah. And so he gives him the shield, and then he kind of shakes his hand, and you see that Cap is wearing a wedding band. And so Sam's just like, you want to tell me about that? And he's just like, no, that's for me. Yeah. And it was nice to see that, because then it ends up on the past, and you see it's in the era of, the first Captain America movie, World War II. And you just see him and Peggy in a house, and they're just slow dancing.
They finally have that dance.
They finally had that dance.
Because the last thing he said to her on that I don't think I'm gonna make it for the dance or something along
I
those
missed
lines.
a date. I had a date, and then they they end with a kiss, and I just thought it was great. The credits rolled. Really nice credits. No mid credit scene. No post credit scene. Although I came up with a really good post credit that wouldn't have led anything else.
We
on.
did get a post something, and it's you get the clanking of Iron Man building his first suit in the
Mark
cave.
I, yeah.
You get that sound thing at the end of the credits,
Yeah.
which is kind of like, Tony.
But I think it should have been with Korg sitting on the couch playing Fortnite, talking with somebody. Because at first I didn't even notice him in the final battle. Jose, you said you saw him. I didn't notice him there, and that's when I was just kind of like, why he wasn't there? I'm like, that would have been funny if he was the post credit and he was playing on
Playing Fortnite,
talking to kids, and that's how we found out the battle happened. That would have been really funny. But whatever. No, this shouldn't have had a post credit. This was the end.
Yeah.
And now we're getting
the end, but not really the end, because Spider-Man Far From Home is supposed to end the phase.
Yeah, but I'm kind of comparing this to. Are you a big fan of The Office?
I end up binging it on Netflix.
Yeah, this is Steve Carell leaving The Office.
Yeah.
They're gonna keep going, but it's not the same.
No,
it's. I mean, I'm not gonna say that they're not gonna do good. We just haven't really been introduced to who is gonna be running the team. We don't have an anchor for a character for us to rely. They want it to be Captain Marvel, but
it's such a shitty idea to do that.
Oh, she's so bad. I can't stand her.
Not even that. How the fuck is she gonna lead the Avengers when
she's never there?
For 20 years in the established world, she's been out in fucking outer space. She doesn't know how shit's being run on Earth.
Yeah, and not only that, in the final battle, and this is something I noticed on the opening night. Remember how we said like how amped up everybody was, and in that final battle, whenever you saw a character, people were just like yeah, and then it got to that moment where Captain Marvel entered, and she just like bursted through the clouds and just broke Thanos' ship, and the whole crowd was just like, eh. It kind of felt that she didn't have a big like, oh my god, everybody's like it was just kind of like everybody was just kind of like whatever.
There was like maybe 10, 20 people.
There was a cheer when he hit her with the Power Stone.
Yeah, because that was fucking cool. Yeah, but other than that,
it was because as we were watching it from the beginning, seeing Black Widow in that role and kind of trying to organize everything like that, I was like, I can picture Black Widow leading this going forward, leading the Avengers. Her kind of going into the forefront, and it's a character we've been with, and then she died, so now it's left up in the air. Like, who, with no Captain, no Iron Man, and no Widow, and Hawkeye's out. Hulk looks like he's going to take a back seat. Thor's going to be doing his own thing. Like you said, who are the anchors? Who's going to be the driving force going forward that is charismatic enough and whose story is compelling enough to keep us coming back?
I don't know about like story compelling enough, but they set it up in a way where Doctor Strange should do it. Like even when going back in time, the Hulk talking to the Ancient One, her response was like, he's supposed to be the best of us. Mm-hmm. Like that shows like he's a leader. He's grounded. He knows he's always fighting for good. Like that basically says, Doctor Strange can
He's
going to
be the new leader, but they got to make Doctor Strange 2 a fucking solid hit movie. Yeah. But anyway, guys, it's been 2 hours. This podcast is 2 hours long. It's time to start wrapping it up. Man, this is
as long as the movie.
We really could go even longer than the movie. It's been wonderful. I would personally like to thank Robert Downey Jr. and Jon Favreau for giving us that first movie, and thank him for his service. Thank Captain America for his service, because these movies are going to be around with us for a long time. I mean, this is a huge moment in superhero movies, and it was just so great for them to give us that performance, because that they loved making these movies. Yeah. They didn't feel like hired actors. They were just as amped to make these movies as we were to watch them, and the passion that they put into it is why we felt so emotional at the end of this movie.
And they absolutely loved these characters, because I remember there was when the Patriots were playing the Seahawks, Chris Pratt, Star-Lord, is a big Seahawks fan. Chris Evans from Massachusetts, he's a big Patriots fan, so they made a bet. Whoever loses, or whatever team loses, they have to go to the children's hospital in the other's hometown dressed as the character.
Such a bad
Yeah,
consequence.
it's a horrible consequence. But they both ended up doing it.
Yeah.
He went
This
to
is fun.
Evans went to the Seattle hospital. Pratt went to Boston Children's Hospital dressed as the characters, and like
No, they didn't. Star-Lord and Captain went.
Yeah.
All right.
But
Well, we got to wrap this up. But anyway, most importantly, I want to thank you guys for watching the movie with me because it was such a memorable theater-going experience. It's something that we may never be able to experience again, at least not for a long time. Yeah. So sitting there with you guys, just being wrapped up in that moment of just pure nerd awesomeness,
it
and
was
feeling like
great.
kids again, and like I'm not afraid to cry in front of you guys. It was like, you know,
or
what I
the
mean?
200 other people in the theater with us.
I didn't care. So thank you guys for sharing that experience with me. And thank you guys for listening. We know that this was a long podcast, but this movie deserved a long, in-depth discussion and breakdown. But if you guys are listening to us on our Spotify or SoundCloud, why don't you guys travel over to our YouTube page at Too High McFly Productions. You guys can see our short films or movie reviews and a whole bunch of other content that we have up there for you. You guys can reach out to us on Twitter at Too High McFly Productions. Let us know what you guys thought about the Endgame. What were your favorite moments and stuff like that. And we're also on the same on Instagram. I'm Kevin Lyons.
I'm Jose Ramos.
And I'm Minnie.
Thank you, Tony Stark.